Well, welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Frank.
And I'm Michael.
And today's episode is episode number 97, and we're sitting down with Megan and Mitchell to discuss their recent 5-night Voyager of the Seas cruise. Let's jump into it. All right. Well, as we mentioned at the top, today we've got some special guests. We've got Mitchell and Megan. So first of all, Mitchell and Megan, welcome on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excited to be here.
Mitchell is a repeat guest. So I think you have to go back on episode 41. He did a review of Mariner of the Seas. And this was fun. We actually got to plan this one with you guys. We've known Mitchell and Megan for a long time now. What is it, like at least 10 years? I should have done the math before this episode, but it's been a long time. So first of all, thank you, Mitchell, for coming back on the podcast. And of course, welcome, Megan. How many cruises has this been on so far? I feel like you guys started cruising around like maybe right after the pandemic. How many total cruises has this been so far?
So for the two of us together, this was actually number 5. We did a cruise, our first wedding anniversary, that was November of 2018. Then we did a cruise, our second anniversary, November of 2019. And then it wasn't until January of last year of 2024, we did the Mariner cruise with Royal. And then we ended up just really liking it, had not done a cruise obviously in a while. So then you guys helped us book that cruise on Wonder of the Seas. So we did that last May to June is when that was. So then this was number 5 on Voyager.
And my family grew up cruising, so I had been on several before we got married, but 5 together.
Awesome. So let's kind of jump into this specific cruise now. Let's kind of talk about who y'all were traveling with and what made you decide to pick Voyager and this itinerary.
So it started out just the two of us, and so we booked this cruise. You guys helped us with all the details of that, and then we kind of just threw it out to our families just to see if anybody wanted to join us, because it's really fun to go just the two of us, but when it comes time to dinner and you're in the main dining room and there's all these huge groups of people and then it's just the two of you, like it's fun, but it's like more fun with more people. So I couldn't get anybody in my family to take the bait, but Megan's parents, who actually went on the Mariner of the Seas cruise with us last year, decided to come. So the 4 of us went together. And as far as how we picked this itinerary, we knew we wanted a shorter cruise just because it was more last minute, and wanted a simpler ship, or so we thought at the time. And so we were looking at Adventure of the Seas, I believe.
Yes.
We definitely wanted to make sure that we hit Coco Cay on whatever cruise we were doing. Just I feel like if you're sailing with Royal Caribbean, that's like a must. And you guys were like, I think I would actually book Voyager instead. So we kind of just trusted you guys and took that advice. So that's kind of how we ended up with Voyager. And it was a really cool itinerary because we went to both of their private destinations, which I know we'll talk about later. But we were definitely excited about that itinerary going into it for sure.
All right. I'm excited. I feel like you have some things building up here that are leaving us on the edge of our seats in terms of this ship. So we'll have to get to that. But before we do, let's talk about your trip down to the ports. You guys live in Georgia. How was that trip down to the cruise port? And did you get to spend any time in Port Canaveral or the Florida area before the cruise?
We actually went down a couple of days early and spent the night in Ocala, and then woke up and went to Tampa Rays baseball game in Tampa. And so we got to do that, and then we left from there to drive to Orlando. My parents went to Disney the Sunday before we left on Monday, and so we stayed the night at the Disney resort with them, and then that way we could drive them to the cruise port Monday morning. So we did get to spend more time than we usually do, which also helped break up the trip and drive down there.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time at pre-cruise. I mean, getting to go to the baseball game, maybe not going to Disney yourselves, but still staying there on the resort. I mean, like you said, and more time just down beforehand too. Like we said, we typically get in just like the night before, so being able to kind of relax and have that time beforehand sounds super nice.
Yeah, that's what we normally do too. Being in Georgia now, it's still like to get to Port Canaveral from our house is about a 6.5+ hour drive. So it's definitely not something you guys always talk about the importance of trying to get down if you can the day before. And so we at least try to break up the trip. And typically we would drive down a little past halfway and stay the night before. But her parents were coming in from Charlotte, so they flew to Orlando, and we're going early to go to Disney. So we just said, well, why don't we go a different route and do something different? So we found a baseball game to go to. And so it was a different kind of way to start the trip. And we kind of had like a little mini vacation before the cruise, which was fun.
Sweet. Well, let's jump into the embarkation process that y'all went through at Port Canaveral. How did it compare to kind of some of your past cruises? And then what were your first impressions when you stepped on the Voyager of the Seas?
Everything leading up to it was pretty smooth. I mean, dropping off the bags with the porters and then parking was super easy. We got straight in through security. We had a little hang up at check-in. Do you want to talk about that just briefly?
So usually we do the health screening on the app before we check in, which makes it super easy. They take your picture and then you're good to go on. But it wasn't an option for us this time to do the health screening beforehand.
The health questionnaire.
Right. And I am pregnant. When we went, I was 19 weeks pregnant.
19,
and
yeah.
So the question the representative helping us was just asked if I was pregnant in general. And I said, yes, of course, just in case anything were to happen on the cruise. The question on the form is actually, are you over 23 weeks pregnant? Because you're not supposed to cruise at that point. So I think there's a little bit of a language barrier, so they had to get some managers involved. So that definitely held it up. But I mean, it ended up being totally fine. It was just like the frustration of it could have easily been avoided had we known the full question.
What did they do? Like, did they do anything to prove it? The background is we've been on a cruise. I went on a cruise with a friend, and she wasn't pregnant, and it was like the same questionnaire where she accidentally or someone clicked like pregnant and has COVID or whatever. So like I didn't know if they like it was like Megan. So like I don't know if they like validated like do they do anything to check, or they're just like, hey, by the way, are you 20 plus like 23 weeks or more, or how did that go?
Yeah. Me, I would have to see the nurse, and I said, "But I'm only 19. I know you can't be over 23." And so the lady that came to like help,
I think it was a manager,
better English, and she was like, "Oh, then there's no problem here if you're less than 23 weeks pregnant." But I think, like I said, I think it was just some miscommunication with the language barrier. But no, they didn't verify anything. I mean, they just took my word for it, and
then we were on the ship.
Moved right along.
Yeah. But it was super cool. We had really good weather the day that we boarded. So our rooms weren't ready. I think we had an 11 a.m. boarding time maybe. So it was probably 11:15 by the time we got on the ship. And we just kind of started exploring. I think we went to the top and worked, or maybe we went to the dining room first and made sure that because we were on separate bookings between us and her parents, so we wanted to make sure that we were all squared away with being at the same table, and they already had us together. And so then we just kind of walked through the ship. We went and got food I guess in the Windjammers were the first place we went. I think that was all that was open at the time. And so maybe Sorrento's was open too, but we ended up in the Windjammer, got some food. It wasn't as crowded at that point. It definitely got more crowded by the time we were getting up and leaving. And so, yeah, the rooms were ready pretty spot on with I think it was maybe 1 o'clock is when they said the rooms would be ready. And so got to meet our room attendant and put all our bags up, and then just kind of went about I think we maybe changed and went up towards the pool deck after that. But a lot of exploring the first day. I know that's what a lot of people like to do. But
oh yeah. Now you guys I remember when we originally booked this, we booked you into an ocean view room on deck 3. And then you ended up doing the royal up, correct? I don't remember exactly how much you put on there, but you ended up roiling up to get the balcony room, right? How did that work out? Were you happy with the room that you were assigned? What did you feel like? How did you feel like that process went?
I mean, I definitely was pleased to have a balcony. It's definitely a luxury to have that, but to be able to just open the door basically and get some fresh air and sit out there in the mornings for us was really nice. We would order the complimentary room service breakfast a couple mornings, and just to be able to sit out, it's just so peaceful. Especially the day we went to Labadee, we got to sit out, and we were port side, so we got to look in the mountains there as you pull up. It's just beautiful. So yeah, for us it was worth it. But it was a 5 night cruise. So if it was a shorter, maybe weekend cruise, I would be fine not to have a balcony. But it was a nice addition that we weren't sure if we were going to get. This is the third time we've done Royal up, and we're actually 3 for 3. So we might be thinking our luck again. But yeah, we've been fortunate to get it each of the times.
The only other thing I'd say about our room is we're always on towards the back of the ship. We just always happen to
Yeah,
choose
for whatever
that. And
reason.
so this one we were assigned port side at the front. And so it definitely took some getting used to where we were on the boat, thinking we were at the back of the ship, but being actually on the front of the ship.
Right.
But the room was really nice.
All right, so y'all dropped your bags off at your room, and like you said, you met your room attendant. Now it's time for sail away. I know you said you kind of headed up to the pool deck after your room. What did you guys end up doing now for sail away?
So we ended up making our way to the very front of the ship. I know down on maybe deck 4 or 5 on Voyager, it's one of the few ships where you can get out on like the helipad. We weren't in my mind when we were remembering this before we got on with you guys. I was sure that that's where we were at, but we never actually went down there. I think we were on deck 11 up on the pool deck, and you can go around to the very front, and there's like a big glass wall and some loungers out there. And so ended up being a big crowd of people by the time we left, but we kind of got right up at the glass where you're like at the front of the ship as it's heading out. And so we just kind of stood there and hung out and just talked to people, and it was just beautiful. We kind of stood there until we got all the way out of the channel and into the ocean past Port Canaveral. And so that's kind of how we spent it. Behind us was the sail away party, and they had a pretty big crowd as well, we noticed by the time we started back walking through the rest of the ship. But yeah, it was kind of nice. We'd never really been in that part of the ship before for sail away, but it was really cool. You were like above the captain basically, and kind of got a cool view of heading out.
Nice. No, that sounds awesome. Sounds like you guys got to enjoy sail away. And we have a lot more questions about the ship and the food and the entertainment, so we'll get to that. But before we do, we want to hear about your itinerary. So I know we talked about this. Maybe we overhyped Labadee a little bit because I really think it's beautiful. I mean, you don't really feel like you're in the Caribbean. It just doesn't seem like it belongs on the same itinerary as Coco Cay, honestly, because one's very flat, and then Labadee's like you're really in the mountains. And unfortunately right now, like Royal's actually stopped sailing like as of this week. Obviously, if you're listening to this a year from now, that will be different. But as of this week, they just stopped sailing on multiple sailings to Labadee. So I'm really glad you guys got to experience it. What was your day like in Labadee? Did you get to enjoy the beach, or did you guys do any excursions? What was your day like here?
So first off, when we pulled up that morning, we're port side, so we're looking straight out across the cove at the mountains, and it was beautiful. I mean, we've been to a few really pretty places on cruises in the Caribbean before. St. Martin's probably one of the prettiest places that I've seen, but the way I described it to people was like just being from the southeast. If you took the mountains in the Great Smoky Mountains, like around Gatlinburg, and you drop them in the Caribbean, and they're like coming straight out of the water, that's kind of how Labadee looks. It's super mountainous, really lush, kind of jungly looking. So it was very unique. Like you said, so different than Coco Cay as far as how the landscape looks, but it was beautiful. We pretty much didn't waste too much time getting off the ship. We got off pretty early and ended up going. It's kind of interesting. There's a couple of different beaches at Labadee that you can set up at. There's the big long beach as you're walking in on your left is all on the ocean side. And then on the right, there's several different coves that are little smaller beaches. The water's a lot quieter. And so I can't remember the name of the beach we ended up on, but it was on the kind of cove side, and it was the first one you come to past the private beach club.
Could you see like the ship in the background?
If you got out in the water, you could see the back half of the ship from it was really pretty. We had our own chairs and umbrellas, and not too far of a walk to get to the food, which was also pretty good. We had heard or seen some reviews that the food on Labadee was terrible compared to what Royal typically offers, but we had a really good experience. I mean, they had your traditional jerk chicken and rice and beans and fresh fruit, and of course they had your burgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. But the like Caribbean food that they offered, I thought was really good, honestly. So yeah, we pretty much spent up until it was time to board the ship, we were out on the beach or in the water and just had a really beautiful day, sea day. So
They also had a coffee bar on Labadee, which they might have that at Coco Cay, but I've never seen it. And so I was definitely excited to see coffee, to have iced coffee after lunch. But that was just something different that I hadn't seen and didn't know was there, which was cool.
That's cool. I didn't know they had that.
yeah, we didn't pay for any excursions at either of the destinations. We just kind of tried to see. We had said before, being at Coco Cay, that I can't remember which excursion we had paid for, but we were walking around and we were kind of like, I bet we could not pay for an excursion and have an awesome day here. And so this cruise, we were like, let's test that theory. And so we didn't do anything. I mean, obviously the zip lines at Labadee looked really cool, but we were like, let's just do a regular beach day, and honestly had a great relaxing day. I mean, I would do it again.
Water temperature wise, you guys had no issues, right, when you were going?
No issues at Labadee. It was a little cooler at Coco Cay. Obviously, we were a lot farther north, but it still was bearable to be able to get in. But it was really nice at Labadee. You really didn't have to. There wasn't any getting used to it. It was really nice there.
Well, I think you kind of took us right into Coco Cay. I mean, like you said, you went in this plan of not doing excursions at both, but still wanted to have a great day. And like you mentioned, you've been to Coco Cay a couple times now. So what did you guys end up doing this visit to Coco Cay?
So we went to South Beach, which is on the back side of the island. So it was a bit of a walk, but
They do have the tram. We just decided to walk. We've been eating a lot at this point. So we
had planned to just be like right when you walk out, where they have all the sports going on, but instead we walked out to the water and then saw that past the cabanas there was like another set of chairs further down the beach. I guess it was in between two sets of the cabanas, and so there was no one really down there when we got there, so we were able to get chairs in the front row, and they had beanbag chairs as well that we sat in for a while, which was neat,
Really
something
nice.
different. And so, yeah, it was just really cool. It felt like we were in a private place that we should have had to pay for, but it was just walking a little further.
Yeah.
So
That's a good tip. Were there like beach beds, like the day beds near you guys down there?
They were further down. I think we were in between them actually. There were beach beds out there. I can't remember if they were. I'm pretty. There were cabanas on both sides of us, and I think
the beds
further
were
past
further,
us,
yeah.
were the beach beds.
Okay, I've had people book the beach beds and they say the same thing. Like you just feel like it's so private, like it's not super crowded, super nice
Yes.
down there. So I haven't been like that far down. I've done like the swim up bar area of South Beach where you can like take your card and swim and grab a drink, which is fun. But I've not gone down to the end of the beach, so I got to check that spot out next time.
The food was good too. The snack shack. One thing I had wanted to test out was the secret sandwich that I had heard about. So apparently, you ask for their chicken sandwich, and they put the mozzarella sticks on it with marinara sauce, like on the chicken sandwich. And it was a lot. I'm glad I tried it. Their chicken sandwiches are amazing, but this was it was kind of almost too much. But definitely would recommend it if you're at Coco Cay.
I know those are the two best items. I feel like everyone raves about the mozzarella sticks and the chicken sandwich. Like if you're gonna have a day at Coco Cay, you got to get both of those.
We also always look forward to the like Mexican like taco bar on Coco Cay too. So we took a late lunch on our way back to the ship and got tacos before we headed back, which we always look forward to as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's one thing not talked about enough on Coco Cay, because I think my first time there with you, we ate at that buffet and I got the tacos, but I feel like you just never hear about it.
I think because the chicken sandwich just outshines, you know. It's just-
Chicken sandwiches are good, but I will say that Mexican taco burrito bowl bar is awesome, especially for us being on Voyager. Like if you're on an Oasis class ship or maybe Icon class, and you've got El Loco Fresh that you can go to any day, then you can get that same quality. But they didn't have anything of that type of food on Voyager, so it was like we were even more excited to get that. Yeah, and they've got all the fresh cilantro, all kinds of hot sauces. I mean, they really go above and beyond. So that was a nice.
I think the
highlight.
other thing is there's like snack shacks seem to be all throughout the island, so it's very convenient to just go get the chicken sandwich, which we did. Whereas the like larger buffet is more in the center of the island, so it's a further walk, and So I think that also deters some people too, because it definitely took us a while to get up and go over there as well, just because of the further walk when you walk right past the snack shack.
We could have taken the tram for sure, but it was just more incentive to get up and walk since we were literally going to food. So
You know what food I want to try on Coco Cay sometimes, which I haven't tried, I don't think ever, is the Captain Jack's where they have the live music when you're walking out.
yeah,
Like I hang out there sometimes and like sit on one of those swings, but I've never ordered the wings. I know they're extra, but I've heard good things. Like it's like Playmakers. Again, if you don't have a Playmakers, it could be a good like mix it up. Like if you've gone to Coco Cay a lot, grab those wings, pay a little bit. I mean, like it's not going to be more than like $10, but it could be a good thing to shake it up too. I've heard good
that's a
things.
good point. Yeah, we had not walked through. I'd seen it, but never been through there. And we were trying to cut across the island at one point and walk through the middle of it. And a server was bringing out a basket of wings, and I was like, man, making this look really. So maybe next time we'll do that. That's a good point.
All right, well, let's jump into your sea days now. So this itinerary had 2 full sea days. What did your typical sea day look like for your group? Did you kind of have more of a plan or kind of just go with the flow? And then how were the crowds aboard Voyager of the Seas?
So we typically, I guess, for both of the sea days, we ate in the main dining room for breakfast. Just a little slower start to the day, and I don't know. There's something about eating in the main dining room. It just feels a little nicer than going to the Windjammer. So we typically would start out that. I think our first sea day, which was after night 1, I got up early and went and did a workout at the gym. By the last sea day, which was our next to last day, that workout didn't happen until around lunchtime. So obviously I had gotten into vacation mode by that point. But typically for us, Megan and I and her parents, some sort of workout happened at some point during the day, and pretty much just lounged after that. I mean, we would set up in the solarium on lounge chairs and brought a couple of good books to read, and so it was crazy. I think it was maybe the second sea day we were talking about how quickly the whole day passed. We felt like we had just gotten out there and gotten relaxed, and then it was time to get ready for dinner. Which is the sign that we were having a good time, because we were super relaxed. And we didn't really do a lot of the activities during the middle of the day. It just was nice to really be able to lay out in the sun, and we had, like I said, we had great weather, so that was where we wanted to be.
I think that's just a thing too. It kind of like the winter, early spring cruises. Because even when we were on Allure, I mean, it was cold here in Charlotte at the time, but we got down there, the sun was out, the weather was great, and it was just nice to just be in the pool all day. Because our cruise was January, right?
Michael, I feel like we did everything though. Like one day we played ping pong for like hours,
and
then we did the flow rider. So I feel like yes, we did have one day where we like did nothing, but we definitely still did stuff. But you're right, like it is really nice in the spring to like get to enjoy the sun and like get a tan in January, February, March. It's really nice.
Well, I don't know. When they say activities, my mind's going to like trivia and bingo, the stuff inside the ship. I'm not thinking like ping pong and flow riding and all that.
Which
You're
goes
still
to show
outside.
you how many activities there are on a cruise to do. I mean, literally, there's indoor activities, there's outdoor. I mean, they have something for everybody.
Which my parents did go to some of the like daytime
on the sea day
shows, or whatever activities were going on. They didn't like to lay by the pool, so they kept themselves busy doing other things.
Right.
There is something for everyone. We just chose to lay around.
Lazy.
Did you guys want to weigh in a little bit on the crowds? If it wasn't like anything worth mentioning, then don't have to. But
like on the crowd size on the ship?
No, just like, did it feel crowded on the pool deck? Were you able, like, did you have to fight people for chairs or anything?
So it filled up pretty quickly in the solarium. I would say I guess the first sea day morning I guess your mom was doing like a water aerobics class in the solarium pool, so we kind of got out there a little early because she was doing that, and just had great chairs for the whole day. And then I guess the last sea day we went to breakfast, and something was delayed where we got out a little later. And so we ended up we were like all spread out or along the solarium, just wherever you could find a chair. And then throughout the day, as people would leave, we ended up all getting back together. But it was kind of cool because then we got to kind of figure out where we wanted to be, because literally each of us were in a different corner of that part of the ship. But even out at the main pool deck, it was, The cruise itself didn't feel overly crowded. I mean, it was definitely, I would say, at least 80 to 90% full if I had to guess, but you never really felt like you were in too big of a crowd other than at the pool decks. It would obviously during the day it would be pretty crowded.
And maybe this is normal, but they had a lot of dance classes on the pool deck, like different types of salsa, Zumba, all types of dances. And so that I think made it feel a lot more crowded too, because there was always a big group of people dancing. And with it being a smaller ship, it was great. They were all having a great time, but it was just, you couldn't really walk through them. There wasn't really room to walk. You had to go on like the very outside of the boat to move around. So that was the only time that I think we really noticed crowds. The buffet was fine. We always found a seat. Didn't really wait in lines as we were getting food and whatnot.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's definitely a good thing to have, is to not feel crowds when you're trying to find chairs or seats at the buffet. But you did take us nicely into food. So let's talk about food on Voyager a little bit, on, the quality. Obviously, it sounds like you guys ended up eating breakfast mostly, at least on the sea days, in the dining room. What about lunches, and did you feel like the quality was really there, and how was that service and overall experience in the dining room, especially when it comes to like dinner, for example?
Yeah, I would say the food, definitely the quality lived up to what we've come to expect from Royal. They do a good job with food, I feel like. And so I guess most of the sea days we would end up just running over to the Windjammer and getting something to bring back to our pool chairs. And
We got pizza one day for lunch.
we did get pizza. Yeah, it's interesting because they don't technically call it Sorrento's, I guess, on Voyager. It's just part of Cafe Promenade, but it's the same concept. And so they've got your pepperoni and cheese, and then they have a rotating special pizza of the day. And that was something pretty much every day we had at least one slice of pizza. So we would do that. We didn't do any specialty dining. We were so close to last minute booking Izumi for one of the nights. In fact, we were going to do it on the French night because out of all the theme nights that we had on this particular sailing, that was the one that from past sailings I would say is one of our lesser favorites. And for whatever reason, there just wasn't as much enthusiasm once we'd actually talked about booking it. And so we just said, look, we're just going to go back to the main dining room that night. And it ended up being a really good night. I can't remember what I had. Maybe like the grilled chicken and like seasonal vegetables. So it wasn't really even a French meal, but it was a really good meal that night. So I was like, I'm glad we ended up coming back to the dining room.
I feel like that's happened to us. We're like, the Italy nights or the Italian nights going to be our favorite. And then it ended up being like, it was like a French night or something that was like random, where everyone was like, that was the best meal. And I don't know what it was, if it was like the options that we had or like the quality or even both. I mean, we ate escargot like every single night on ours, so that maybe went with the French theme. But
yeah, I would say our favorite theme, between all four of us that were together, was the Taste of Mexico night, which I think was right in the middle of our cruise. And like I'm not usually a 2 entree person, but I think I know for a fact that I ordered 2 entrees that night. It was like, how do you choose? Everything sounded good. So that was, and I don't know that we had that specific theme before.
Yeah, I know Mexico. I haven't either, because I think that must be beyond 3 and 4 night sailings. Yeah. I don't think I've done any sailing beyond 4 days since they've switched the menu. But I think that's a good point too, Mitch. You kind of said, like, going into it based on your past sailings, you don't like French night. So obviously, if you're going to have that on just about any Royal sailing. So the way they're doing the menus now, you can kind of pre-plan and be like, all right, we're going to look at specialty dining that night. So it's definitely different, like some of the other cruise lines where it's a the menus are probably the same per cruise, but they don't like promote them as such.
Right. The specialty dining too on this ship, it was what it was, but it was pretty limited. There was Chops Grill and Izumi, and then I think they had Chef's Table. And unless I'm missing one, that was it as far as specialty dining goes. So we had done Chops on Wonder of the Seas last year and really enjoyed it. So the one that if we were going to do one, it probably was going to be Izumi, and it just didn't work out. So we'll have to do that on another cruise for sure.
All right, well, let's move on to add-ons. Did y'all add on any type of spa packages, Wi-Fi packages on the sailing? And if so, how was your experience with them?
The only thing that we added on was Megan got the, I guess it's the deluxe refreshment package. It's the one that doesn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
So obviously being pregnant, that's wasn't going to be an option. And so she got that, and it was just nice to kind of have something to break up. We typically are just in our daily life drink a lot of water, just in general. That's kind of our go-to. So the soda part of it wasn't really appealing. Neither of us really drink that, but we did find out on this sailing that the soda machines do have sparkling water, like Aha, I think is their brand that they use. So you have that as an option, which we ended up taking advantage of. And then every night at dinner, our server would have Megan a San Pellegrino with and a glass with ice and lime, like ready every night, which was really nice. So to have that part of it, and then she could get mocktails out on the pool deck. It was nice to have that. I think she got her money's worth out of it.
It was definitely nice to have. I would say on Wonder, there's a lot more, when we had it on Wonder, there's a lot more options with like the Vitality Spa having the juices and the smoothies and whatnot. I still think I would get it again if we did a smaller ship, but I don't think it was as beneficial as it was on our other sailing.
They have a Vitality Cafe on?
They don't have the cafe. They do have the spa and the gym, the fitness center, all of that, but they don't have the actual juice bar and spa. But the other part that I guess was a huge thing that you used yours for was the coffees from Cafe Promenade. I mean, several times a day we would, and even if we just kind of wanted the smell of coffee, it was nice just to go grab one to take into a show or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it was included in the package she had. So
the other nice thing I would say is you're not required to have it for both people in the room, whereas like the deluxe beverage package with the alcohol, like everyone in the room has to have it. This just one person could get. So like Mitchell would get coffee in the morning and I would get it at night after dinner. And so it was just nicer to have an extra option that we didn't both have to pay for.
Yeah, no, that is really nice. And the coffees, I feel like there's a lot of people that are just like solely big like espresso drinkers, or I need like, if you're going to have one or two of those a day, and then to me also, like I'm a big water drinker on the cruises, but I love the bottled waters. I don't know. I don't really like to fill up a cup and like walk around with it as much as I like to just be like, I know, I'm sorry, people that are very sustainability, but I would always like to get like a couple water bottles before bed just to have, in the room. And I feel like if you're drinking like 4 or 5 water bottles a day, again, sounds bad for the earth, but it does make the package work. Like it works a lot, it makes it worth it at the end of the day, because that's like $15 worth of water bottles. So
definitely.
The other add-on, we didn't get it, but my parents got, I don't know if it's like the Cafe Select or Coffee Select. I don't know what the official title is of it, but you got, I think it was like 1 or 2 coffees a day.
It's like a coffee punch card, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like a physical card. And her mom made the comment that they told her, like, do not lose this card, because if you lose it, then that's pretty much it.
But I think they were happy with it. I've always seen that option, but didn't really think much of it. But they seemed to, I think they used all of it and didn't really need any extras. So it was of value to them. I don't know that we would ever get it, but that was neat seeing a different add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my mom just booked it for our Alaska cruise, and I think it was $15, maybe $15, $16, and came with 15 punches. But based on like if it was a single espresso or double espresso or like a tall or a grande or maybe an iced, it depends if it's 1 or 2 punches off the card. Right. So you're probably getting anywhere 7 to 15 drinks at the end of the day.
It's still it's not bad. It's not a bad price.
No.
All right. So I know your last cruise was Wonder of the Seas, so very different when it comes to entertainment. So tough to compare there, but how was the entertainment on board Voyager? Again, maybe compare against like Mariner of the Seas, and how were the shows on board? Whether you got to see like any theater production shows, some live music around the ship, whether it's the pub or the schooner bar, comedy. Yeah, just overall, how was the entertainment?
So we went to pretty much every show each night. That was kind of like our nightly routine. We had the early dining time at 5, so we would finish dinner. Megan was sure that we were going to get a picture together dressed up, after dinner. So after we do that and get some coffee, it's time for whatever the first showing of the main production that night. So we saw, I guess it was just one night we saw the ice show, which was great. Super talented people. Then pretty much all of the shows in the Royal Theater we would go to. All of them we thought were great, other than the comedian that they had on the ship. I just did not find him as funny as I thought that I would, and I don't know what he came with a lot of high credentials, and I'm sure most of the audience probably thought he was funny, and it wasn't like anything vulgar or anything like that. I just kept looking around like I know I'm supposed to be laughing, and it used much to make me laugh. I don't have a high standard when it comes to that, but it's just interesting to how it's okay that not everything has to be your favorite. But we also did a lot of the shows in the Star Lounge, which is a cool thing that the Oasis class don't have. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of the things that happen in the Star Lounge, they have their own separate venues when you get to the larger ships. But there's something about the Star Lounge, we just really like it. It's kind of like an intimate environment, and so they do a lot of fun game shows there that we would go to. I'm trying to think of what
Listen
else.
to the
The Schooner Bar. We love the Schooner Bar. They had a really talented. Was his name Eric? Maybe. Yeah, he was really good though. They always have talented piano players and singers. So the Schooner Bar was usually where we would kind of end the night listening to. I mean, I think he would play almost 4 hours each night of show tunes, or he would take requests and stuff like that. So
Remind me, the Schooner Bar on this one is down by the casino. Is that correct?
yeah, 4 towards the front, I believe.
I like that location. I mean, we've
do
done
too.
Oasis class, and I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just in the promenade. It's loud. It's kind of tucked in a corner versus like the Schooner Bar down on deck 4. You have ocean views. It just feels a bit more spacious, more room to like spread out. I like the bar set up a little bit better.
Yeah, and there's some fancy staircases right behind the Schooner Bar that lead straight up into the Royal Promenade. So there was one night where we had been sitting there for a while, and I was like, I'm kind of hungry. I guess I didn't eat enough at dinner or whatever. So I just ran up and got a plate full of pizza from Cafe Promenade and brought it right back down. And I was like, this was so convenient to have that like right there. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was in a great location, and our room was straight up. I mean, we were on deck 9, so we were a few decks up, but it was like right in the same location from where the Schooner Bar was. So that made it really nice too.
I mean, that kind of takes us into the next part of ship layout. Now, like you said, you've sailed Mariner of the Seas before, so this wasn't necessarily a new class for you. But overall, I mean, probably still real easy to navigate for y'all. And like, did you find it super easy to just find your way around the ship?
Yes and no. Megan kept giving me a hard time throughout the whole cruise because I would be convinced that I was in a certain part of the ship, and she'd be like, no, we're like literally on the total opposite of the ship. I think what she said at the beginning about our room being at the front, when for whatever reason on every other cruise we've always been towards the back, that just mentally I could not get past that. But the other thing was I'm pretty sure that at some point during a amplification they moved where the Vitality Fitness Center and Spa was, because now I believe it's on the back of the ship when typically it would be on the front, maybe originally when the ship was built. So that was something that was kind of interesting, because typically there's like a big open hallway, kind of a grand entrance into the Vitality Spa. And the way this was set up, there was kind of like a long, skinny, dark hallway that took you down to where it kind of opened up. It's just really interesting. It seemed like a lot of wasted space, but it's still the gym area had enough for whatever you needed to do. They didn't really have these larger changing room bathrooms like you typically would see. They kind of had these single person, smaller bathrooms. So I can't remember, and I think I remember reading about that whole amplification, and I can't remember the reason for why they did that, but that was the one thing that seemed different, because you're right, most of the layout was the same as Mariner. For whatever reason, this layout still just kind of threw me off. A lot of the time it was kind of like a running joke for us that I just never knew where we were at. But
The other difference compared to Mariner was the like sports area where they had the slides and the basketball court and mini golf and all that was on deck 13, which we thought was funny because there's usually no deck 13s on cruise ships. But it was also in the very back, and you could only get to it through like an interior center hallway. And so it's just very secluded. I feel like we forgot it was there most of the time. The only reason we really did anything back there was the last night that the comedian like did his second performance. We went and played mini golf during that time instead.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just kind of like, it felt like a much smaller, like original ship that didn't have that stuff, just because you didn't see it right in the middle of the ship near the pool deck. It was like off in its own area.
Yeah, it was just harder to remember that it was all back there. It was like its whole different world. But on the other hand, I guess it was kind of nice because all that stuff was like confined to, like, if you were going to do anything active, the sports court was where you were going to do that. But we didn't really get in. I kept saying we were going to do the slides, but Megan, being 19, 20 weeks pregnant when we were on the ship, wasn't going down any slides, and I really didn't want to do it by myself. So we didn't do that, but I do love that. I think it's so awesome that they have slides on cruise ships. We did that on Wonder of the Seas and on Mariner and really enjoyed it.
No, that's awesome. I still have yet to be on a Voyager class ship, and I feel like it's one of the ones that, I don't know, everyone says it's like the best parts about Freedom class, but it's just a little bit smaller, a little bit less people. But the great parts about, the Freedom class, they still have, you have the ice show, you have the beautiful promenade, maybe not as big, but still you have a promenade. You don't have like the Centrum thing. I don't love the Centrum. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you guys got to enjoy the ship. Now let's talk a little bit about service. How did you feel like the service compared to what you've experienced on Wonder, Mariner, any other cruises that you've been on in the past?
I didn't think that we had any issues with service. Everything was Royal Caribbean takes that. It seems like they have a pretty high standard for their service, and so as far as like our room attendant, we honestly didn't see him a ton, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing because every day when we came back into the room, it was cleaned. Everything was set up like it normally would be, and so I never had any issues with our room not being clean or anything like that. So. That was great. The service across the ship, everybody was super friendly and willing to help. In the dining room during dinner time, it kind of seemed like in our particular section, maybe they were stretched a little thin. I don't know. I remember the first night when we sat down, they typically have a nameplate with who your head waiter and assistant waiter are, and it ended up being two different people than what was listed. So I don't know if maybe somebody called out sick or if they were running short for whatever reason, but we ended up having the same waiter and assistant waitress the entire all 5 nights, and they were great. They actually were a husband and wife team from Indonesia, and they were super cool. We had a lot of cool conversations with them, and overall, I would say the service was what we've come to expect from Royal Caribbean, which was great.
All right, well, after 5 nights, your cruise finally came to an end. How was the disembarkation process back at Port Canaveral?
I don't remember much about it, which means that it went pretty smoothly. I mean, we always have done where, like, we don't set our bags out the night before. We just carry off the morning of, and we just kind of got up and I guess we were off by maybe 7:30 or so. And it's really nice when you enter back in Port Canaveral. You just kind of walk straight off, and we never really had to stop until we're back at the parking garage. So it was absolutely no complaints with how disembarkation went.
Awesome. Well, overall, wrapping up now in terms of the service, the food, the itinerary, the room that you booked, how would you compare this cruise against your other cruise that you've been on in the past?
I mean, Voyager is a great ship. There's something to say about the simplicity, and I say that in context of a ship, of an Oasis class ship like Wonder of the Seas, which was the last one we went on. There's still so much to do on a ship like Voyager of the Seas, and it would be a great cruise for, I mean, honestly, anybody who loves cruising. I think you would have something that you would find that's within your wheelhouse to do on a ship like that. It was kind of hard to compare it because the last thing that we had been on was Wonder of the Seas, and that first time being on an Oasis class. And I think that if we're booking again, we're probably booking an Oasis or Icon class ship, which we actually did with you guys. You guys helped us book Star of the Seas for fall of 2026. But it was super nice. We were wanting just a simpler itinerary and a simpler ship with sometimes having all of the options can be overwhelming. And so to just have, like, it was nice not to have to worry about 25 different specialty restaurants to choose from. It was like we're eating at the main dining room tonight, and
Yeah.
had a great time with that. So there's something to be said for that. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for in a cruise. But I mean, I have absolutely nothing bad to say about Voyager. It was a great ship.
Yeah, I'd agree. Even for first-time cruisers, like we talked about not having to make reservations for the shows and entertainment. Like it's just you can just walk in and do whatever you want. Whereas being on Wonder, we had the extra stress of having to, make sure we had all of our entertainment booked and at the right time. And then, so yeah, I think it was a big enough ship that it had enough to do to keep you entertained, but it wasn't like so overwhelming, too much to do, and like all these extra tasks that you don't really want to have to worry about on vacation. So I think we'd go on this class again. I think
for sure.
Mariner is still one of our favorite ships we've ever been on. Voyager was very similar to it. So we enjoyed it.
Anything else you would have done differently on the sailing?
I don't know of anything really. I mean, it was a great cruise. We had an awesome time. We're sad to get off, which is usually the sign that you've had a great experience. So
I'd say one other like hard part was being pregnant, and we typically spend a lot of time in the hot tubs or even just the pool in general. And I couldn't be in the hot tub pregnant. And then even the pools it was warm outside, but they had heated the pool. So there just like wasn't really an option to go swimming. And so I know that doesn't affect everyone, but if there are anyone listening who is pregnant, like that's just something to keep in mind. It just kind of limited the options of the activities that you would typically do during the day.
That's a really good tip. I know, like, we probably have people that listen to this podcast that are pregnant, that are planning to go on a cruise, and we never talked about that. So that's a great point, Megan. And like, you have those showers, so I guess you could like, if you get hot, you can take those. You know what I'm talking about? Those showers right by the pool that you can rinse off, just so like you get a little wet and you're not like sweaty by the pool. But that's really it. I mean, if it's the pool's hot and you got the hot tubs, you're kind of, what do I do? So that's a good point.
But if you have that expectation going into it, there are so many other things not pool related, so you can just shift your expectation to maybe I'll go do trivia or the Sudoku challenge or laser tag or whatever. There's different things that you can do other than just get in the pool. That's just what our prior experience was. That's kind of what we look forward to. So that was kind of eye-opening, but really good to kind of let other people know that that's just something that maybe not a reality if you're pregnant or
Well, like you mentioned, Star of the Seas next year, so really excited about that. But between now and then, you get to focus on building the family and building a future cruise addict, which is amazing. We love that. And we're excited again to hear what you guys think about Star, and obviously to see all the baby photos over the next year. But Mitchell, Megan, thanks again so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. And again, looking forward to having you guys back on in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This was great.
We just want to say thank you to Megan and Mitchell again for coming on the podcast to talk about their Voyager of the Sea sailing. It was great having Mitchell back on the podcast and Megan on it for the first time. As always, if you're interested in booking Voyager of the Seas or any other cruise out there, we'd love to help you with the booking process. You can shoot us a text at 704-313-8556 or fill out the Jot form link in our bio. And as always, if you have any questions for a future question and answer segment of the podcast, make sure to either DM us on social media or send us an email at cruiseconversations@gmail.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday.